Those stretches that you've been doing for your lower back pain might actually be making it worse. Now, don't get me wrong, stretching is definitely one of the best things that you can do to relieve pain in your lower back, but what a lot of people don't realize, and what isn't mentioned very often here in videos on YouTube, is that not all lower back pain comes from the same source, and therefore it can't all be treated with the exact same exercises. That's why you may see one exercise that's great for one condition, but it causes a lot of pain because you actually have another. So how do we know which stretches are best for your specific type of lower back pain? My name's Dr. Jared, that's where I come in. In this video, I want to not only share with you 10 of the best stretches that you can do for your lower back, but also explain which ones might be best for your specific pain and your specific condition. My goal with this video is that you take 3 or 4 or 5 of these stretches and put them together in a routine that is the best for your specific type of pain. That being said, let's get started. In this video, we'll talk about the 4 types of lower back pain that I treat the most often in my physical therapy clinic. But then I also want to give you an indication of whether or not you should do that exercise based on that condition, ranging from probably don't do it to definitely try it out. Yellow is kind of proceed with caution, try it out, see how it makes you feel. That being said, I want to start with a few exercises that are going to generally be really good for most conditions out there. So the first one is going to be a lumbar rotation stretch or a double knee rotation stretch. You're going to lay down on your back, keep your shoulders down to the floor, and then we're just going to drop both knees over in one direction until that hip kind of starts to rotate. And what you'll feel there is a stretch through the hip. Gently it will pull up into your lower back. Hold that in a comfortable position for 15 to 20 seconds, and then we're going to repeat over to the other side as well. And once again, most conditions are pretty tolerant to this. We would go 3 times, 20-second holds to each side. If you need something a little more aggressive, or if you can take that to the next level, the single knee rotation stretch is a good option. So now I'm going to straighten my left leg out. With my left hand, I'm going to grab the right side of my right knee and then use that left hand to pull my knee over here towards you. And again, what we get here is more rotation, a deeper stretch up into that right side. I would hold that in a comfortable position for 20 seconds and then repeat over here to the left as well. And then we're going to repeat that 3 times to each direction. Now the next one, we're going to start to introduce a little bit of flexion into the back. Typically good for most conditions. This is kind of a proceed with caution if you do have a herniated disc. We don't want to introduce a lot of flexion, but you can try this out and see how it feels. The introductory exercise for this would be a single knee to chest stretch. I'm going to lay on my back with one leg out straight, and now with my hands I'm going to grasp, this is my left knee, and then I'm going to pull that up and in towards my chest until I start to get a good stretch here through the glute and up into that lower back area. Hold that for 20 seconds and then repeat that on the right side. Again, most conditions are really tolerant towards this. If it causes any increase in your bulge disc symptoms or sciatica, might not be the best one for you. The next progression that's going to introduce even a little more flexion into the back, get a little bit better stretch, would be a double knee to chest stretch. And so for this one, we're going to grab both knees and pull them both into the chest. And you can see as I do that, it pulls through my hips to introduce this flexion stretch into my lower back. Arthritis, degenerative disc, stenosis, even mechanical pain usually really love this. But again, if it causes an increase in pain because of your bulge disc, it's kind of a proceed with caution, fill it out, see how it feels. If your back doesn't like that, then definitely would avoid this one. 20-second holds repeated 3 times is the number that I recommend. Next, we're going to get into a stretch for your deep hip rotators. This is going to be a piriformis stretch. Once again, we're going to introduce some flexion into your back. Great for a lot of conditions, not necessarily great sometimes for that bulged or that herniated disc condition. What I'm going to do is cross my right leg over my left knee. Now with my hands, I'm going to reach around to the back of my left knee and pull that left leg up towards my chest. Oh man, that one's a little tight on me. Just until we get a good stretch into that right deep hip, kind of right in that right glute, right buttock area. we're gonna hold that for 20 seconds and then we'd repeat it on the other side by crossing the left leg over the right knee, grab behind the right knee, and then pull that up and into the chest. It's my experience with this one that most people really like the way this feels. Really like 9, even 10 out of 10 patients with lower back pain are gonna get some tightness in that piriformis or in that glute area. This is a really great, safe way that we can start to loosen that up. The next one is going to be a hamstring stretch. Hamstrings usually get tight in most instances of lower back pain. This is my favorite way to stretch it out because we're gonna keep the back in a nice, safe, neutral position. Should be safe for most types of lower back pain. Once again, we're introducing some flexion into the leg. Proceed with caution if you have a bulged disc, especially if you have some stenosis, or excuse me, especially if you have some sciatica going on because of the bulged disc. There are some other options that we can give you for that I'll address here in a second. You're gonna need a belt or a towel or a sheet, something that just doesn't stretch that you can loop around one foot. So we're gonna loop that around one foot. I'm going to lay down on my back. Again, my back is in this nice, safe, neutral position. And then with both hands, I'm gonna pull that tail, those tails up towards me, bringing the foot up towards the ceiling, up towards my chest, just as high as I can comfortably until I get a good stretch through this hamstring muscle right here in the back. And so again, I like this one because I'm not bending my lower back. It's actually a really safe, neutral position for your lower back to be in, but we're getting a good stretch to that hamstring. And if we can relieve some of that tension from those hamstrings pulling on the pelvis, it's a really great way to loosen up your lower back. And so I'd hold this for 20 seconds. I would repeat that 3 times here on the left, 3 times on the right. And again, that's a really great stretch for those hamstring muscles. The next stretch, this is going to actually be a great stretch for that bulged disc or for that herniated disc. They tend to respond better to extension positions to redistribute pressure on the disc and put it back where it should be. And so herniated discs are going to love this stretch. That being said, it also can cause some pain in degenerative discs and arthritis, stenosis, and so probably a no-no if you have those conditions, just because we are causing a lot of pressure in the back of the spine. This is going to be a prone progression, prone on elbows, prone on hands. In yoga, they call it the Cobra progression. And so the first thing we're going to start with is laying here on my stomach, and then I would put my elbows under my shoulders, and that's where we're going to start. And again, because of the extension that we're introducing in the back, a lot of times those bulge discs will really love this. It might be a little tender at first. Hold that for about 10 seconds, come down out of it, and then get back into it. And as you repeat that, you'll start to notice your lower back pain and those bulge disc symptoms will start to subside. If the prone on elbows or kind of the mini Cobra feels okay, what we're gonna do is now put my hands under my shoulders, press up onto my hands into this prone on hands or this King Cobra position, just to introduce more of an extension stretch in my lower back. I'd hold that again for about 10 to 15 seconds and then come right back down. This is a little bit more of an active stretch. I would then repeat this about 10 times. If you do have the degenerative disc or stenosis condition, we're going to avoid extension. We're going to do a flexion activity. That's what this child's pose stretch is going to be. That's our next exercise. Again, not my favorite for a bulge disc. They tend to like the extension position a little bit more. And so if you do have one of those other 3 conditions, try this child's pose out. We're going to kneel down with my hands right here on the ground, and then in this position, keep your hands on the ground as you sit down towards your heels. And what we're going for here is just a really good rounding to your entire back. Try to tuck your pelvis down underneath you. Try to sit down on your heels just until we get a nice, good, comfortable stretch throughout that entire spine. I would hang out there for about 20 seconds and I would repeat that 3 times. Again, great for 3 of our 4 conditions. I would probably avoid this one if we had some of the herniated disc or the bulge disc condition going on. Next is going to be a cat-cow or a cat-camel. Now this one's kind of interesting. We're going to proceed with caution for 3 conditions on this one because again, we want to avoid extreme flexion with a a bulge disc, but we want to avoid extreme extension with some of those other problems. And so what I want you to do is proceed with caution. The caveat on this is go through as much motion as you can comfortably, because it's a really great exercise to introduce motion into the back. Just keep in mind that there is some potential there for some aggravation if we get into extremes of motion. And so with my hands are right under my shoulders, knees are underneath my hips. In this position, we're going to start with the angry cat. I'm going to basically push my shoulder blades apart, round my entire back up towards the ceiling, tuck my pelvis underneath myself, get as much of this rounding position as you can comfortably. We're going to hold that for about a 5-second count, and then we're going to come into the camel or the cow position. Now I'm letting my I'm letting my torso fall towards the ground. My gaze comes up towards the wall in front of me. I'm going to extend through my entire lower back. I'm going to hold that for about a 3 to 5 second count and then come back into the cat position again. And so great stretch, especially for general lower back pain, just general conditions that cause pain in that lower back. Your back needs to move. Your back wants to move. This is a great way that we can introduce this motion without a lot of stress. And then I would repeat that, about 20 times. You could even do 3 sets of 10 on that if it feels good. And then finally, the last stretch that I have for you is going to be a hip flexor stretch. If you have tight hip flexors, it can pull on your lower back. It can really increase the curve in your lower back. This is a great way to loosen that up. And so what we're going to do is kneel down on one knee, bring one foot here in front of you, keep really good posture. Now what I want to do is lunge forward onto this left foot until I get a really good stretch right here in the right front part of my hip, that right hip flexor. And I would hold that for about a 20-second count, and you can repeat that 3 times, and then you can switch over to the other side as well. Now, if you need more great help with your bulge disc condition or your stenosis condition, check out these 2 videos right here. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I'd love to see you back for future videos. Hit this circle. I hope these help you out, and I hope to see you again soon.